Welcome to my session. My name is Kay Mal, and my session for the virtual PD today is all about getting to know your students by using Google. These are activities that I've actually used for, I believe, the past 2, maybe 3 years to get to know my students on the first couple of days at school, of school, while also getting baseline data both of their ability to use basic Google apps, but also get baseline data about their writing skills. For those who don't know me, I teach English 3 in the resource and collab settings at Central Hardin. So I work with a lot of different kids with a lot of different ability levels. So I use some of these tools just to kind of get to know everybody. If you have any questions at any time, like Crystal said, please put them in the chat and she will let me know the questions. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and start showing you some examples of the activities that I do, and then give you all some time to work through them on your own, as well as ask any questions. So one of the first things that I have that is actually new that I came up with this year is a getting to know you Google form. And I decided to do this because last year, even before NTI, we had switched over to using Google Forms for a lot of our assessments because you can get such quick feedback about performance. And in turn, you can also give the students immediate feedback because you can set up Google Forms to let them see their wrong questions, and you can put like tips of why it was incorrect and things like that. So this is just a basic getting to know you form that also sees if they're familiar with some of the different concepts you can use in Google Forms. So of course, I want to know their name, and I want to know what name they go by. And for those, I've used short answer texts so that they'll be familiar with typing in Google Forms. And now you're going to see that in addition to like the more academic related, class related questions, I've also thrown in some things that are just fun. So like I've thrown in this picture and said, look, Lin-Manuel Miranda in Hamilton. And then I asked a fun question. Have you seen Hamilton? And for that, I used multiple choice. Then I used a checkbox one. I said, what streaming service do you use? So I know these questions might seem kind of random, but when I'm getting to know the kids, when I ask questions like this, because it helps me learn some of their interest and whatnot. I asked, what devices are you comfortable using? And this is because in my class, I like the kids to use whatever device they are comfortable with. For example, if they are the most comfortable with using Google Classroom on their smartphone, then I would like for them to use it on their smartphone. If they're more comfortable with their own personal laptop as opposed to a school desktop or Chromebook, then I'm all about them using that laptop. So I want to know what devices they're comfortable using. And that's also handy for if you do have to do some at-home instruction, then you know what device they're going to be using. I found this especially helpful if we had a kid who was going to be absent for a few days. I would know what device they would be working on at home. So that was good for me to know. Ask them, what kind of learner are you? Visual, and I even put in parentheses because I don't expect them to know what all of these different learning types are. Visual, auditory, or kinesthetic. I want to know that from, that's a multiple choice question. I threw in a video. I threw in a couple of videos because I like to embed videos in my Google Forms. So I want to make sure before we start doing instruction that they know how to watch a video within the form. And then I just asked, what's your favorite TV? Where were you born? What kind of music do you like? And I again went back to a checkbox. I want them to check all that apply. I like to put this kind of question on there because when we're doing independent work, I know a lot of kids like to have some background noise. So I like to play from my computer just some kind of background music that the kids will like that's school appropriate. And ask them about their work preference. I've found that this becomes a very good question to ask your kids if they prefer to use a computer or technology or pen and paper. I've had some kids that are very adamant about they learn better on pen and paper, whereas some are better on the computer. So I think that's an important question to ask because it allows you to know right up front who might be better with which form of assessment, and you can be prepared to offer both. I threw in another video for them to take a look at, again, to show me that they know how to watch an embedded video in Google Forms. Then ask them what's their favorite movie. I like to know when kids' birthdays are. I know that's something that you can look up in Infinite Campus, but I like to have that somewhere, and I like them to have told it to me because I like to tell happy birthday to my kids when it's their birthday. I want to know what their favorite color is. That's just a getting to know you thing that if I ever have something for them, of course, I don't know how that'll work this year, bringing in things for our kids, but I like to make it in their favorite when possible. Then I had them at another checkbox. I want to know which one of these they are comfortable using. And these are all things that I have used within my classroom in the last year. Of course, we use Google Classroom a lot, and really got me to using Google Classroom all last year was I realized how convenient it is for kids who are absent to get caught up by having everything on Google Classroom. But I also want to know how they are with Google Docs, Google Slides, Google Forms, because we use those a lot. Probably the most two we use besides Classroom itself are Docs and Forms. I also asked them about using Google Sites because I've developed an escape room on Google Sites, and I want to do some more activities that kind of turn learning into games using Google Sites. I put Google Drawings on there because I just think it's fun to see what they can create. I also put a couple of extensions, Read Aloud and Cite This For Me, because we use that a lot with our kids, especially if they have like reader accommodations and whatnot, because they have to get used to using a technology reader for state testing. I love to use that Read Aloud extension so that they're used to having that instead of an actual person all the time. Now, I'm not saying that I don't read as well, because I do, but I like to have them working towards knowing how to do it so they'll be prepared. And Cite This For Me is great for when you're doing any kind of project or presentation or a paper. I also put in there YouTube because we do a lot of YouTube videos as far as little clips to go with our instruction. And I also want to know about their ability to use Google Maps, because when I teach English, if we're reading a story about Poe, I want to be able to go into Google Maps and show you some of the places where Edgar Allan Poe lived. And so I want to know how familiar they are with Google Maps. I just put in a picture of a beach. It's actually Half Moon Cay in the Bahamas. It's one of my favorite places. I asked them if they could be anywhere in the world right now, where would you be? Because I think it's important to know like where their dream place is, or I like to connect with kids as far as knowing if when they're not at school, where would they like to be? And maybe that's they want to be at home on the farm working with a grandparent, or they want to be in the mountains at a favorite getaway, or they want to be at the beach, or anywhere that they would want to be. I also ask them basic questions like, what's their favorite subject? Since my kids are juniors and older, I always want to know if they have their license or permit. And then my last question is, do you have internet at home? And this is not because of NTI that this is on here. This is because of when they're absent, I like to be able to direct kids to my Google Classroom. And if they have internet at home, then they can easily do that makeup work outside of school. And that means also that they can communicate with me via email from home if they're going to be absent for a week or 2 weeks because of a situation. So that is my basic getting to know you Google form. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay. If there aren't any questions about the getting to know you Google form, then I'm going to jump over to one of my favorites. So this is something that got introduced to me a few years ago, and this is my getting to know you choice board. This was actually presented to us by another member of our English department. a couple years ago, and I love it. So this is used to determine a student's baseline ability with Google Docs as well as Google Slides and see where their current writing level is. So like I've already set mine up over here with a due date for this year, for this August. I always do it the Friday of the last or the Friday of the first full week of school. So you see start here in the middle, and that's my beautiful Bitmoji. I think it's just fun to use a Bitmoji. You could use just a picture or just a welcome, but I always think it's fun. And then I have them complete one of each color. So they have 4 red choices, and all of the 4 red choices are designed to be completed in Google Docs. So you can write a paragraph about your summer. You could write a 10-line rap song. You could write a 5-sentence paragraph about their goals after high school, or just an about me letter. So let's say they're looking at their red choices and they want to do the choice 4. They would click choice 4 and it takes them to another slide. And then it has the precise instructions. And the reason, again, that I outline the instructions with so much detail is I want to not only get to know them, but I want to get to know their ability levels with the Google. And so I'll tell them, open a Google Doc. I tell them what to title it. Then I tell them to change the font and size to a specific font and size, change the spacing to double, then what to do. And I tell them, this is a skill that we use specifically with English all year. I tell them to go ahead and highlight the periods. One, that allows me to quickly count the sentences to know if they actually wrote 5. And it's also a habit that we use throughout the year as part of our editing checklist when we're writing. And then I just have them submit it. Back button. So now I would look at the blue choices. These are all done in Google Slides. We also use Google Slides a lot. So I want to know their proficiency with Google Slides. And all of these involve putting 5 pictures into a Google Slide presentation. So one of them is all about their interests. One's about their favorite musician. One's about favorite places to travel. And another one will be about favorite movies. So you can just click on the choice and it'll take you to that slide. And again, it's going to have some very specific instructions like open it, what to title it, how many slides to create. And I even put on there that I wanted some text on the slide because I want to see what they know, if they know how to put a text box into a Google slide with a picture. And then just to submit it under blue choice on Google Classroom. And I've also on here have a slide that I put up first, and it'll say starting task, and it's the instructions. This is what I put up on the board, and it'll be the instructions to join Google Classroom. And I let them know that this is where they're going to submit their finished tasks. So that is my choice board. I do have a template for it to share with everybody that I can post in the comments. But those are my 2 things that I use, my 2 tools that I use for getting to know my kids each year, whether it is in person or online. This will work with either in-person instruction or the Online Learning Academy because it's stuff that can be adapted to both, used in the classroom or online. But these are my 2 tools that I use to gather A, information about their ability to use Google Apps, and B, about their writing abilities. So I use it to get those 2 baselines. And let me go ahead and post in the comments the general template if anybody would like to use it. So I have put in the chat the general template. If you'd like to use it to make your own choice board, you can just click make a copy. You could also do it in Google Slides or with text boxes. Allison, that is a great question. So I just do this at the beginning of the year because I have, with English 3, we are an ABC course. And so I have the same kids all year long. But if I didn't, I would do it each time I had a part A. Let me see if I can get access, get it to open up for everybody. Okay, try to open it again. I think I just changed it to where anyone with a Hardin County email can have access. I'll also go ahead and make a copy of the Google form and post it if anybody would like to use it to edit for their classroom. Okay, I've now added the Google form to the comments as well. And does anybody have any other questions?